This week on Two Sense Unfiltered, we're going where the mainstream media refuses to go. Members of Congress openly told the U.S. military and intelligence community to undermine the president. And veterans are calling it what it is, a soft coup, a direct attack on the chain of command, and on the Constitution itself. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Buzz Patterson, former nuclear football carrier, is sounding the alarm. And you need to hear why. If you care about America's military, national security, and the survival of this republic, don't miss this episode. This is Two Cents Unfiltered. No spin, no fear, just truth. But before we dive into today's topic, we first need to talk definitions for both sedition and treason. Sedition, what sedition actually means. Sedition isn't just disagreeing with the government. It's not complaining about the president. It's not protesting. And it's certainly not having the wrong political opinion. Sedition is inciting rebellion against lawful authority, specifically encouraging force, violence, or organized resistance that aims to undermine or overthrow the government. In simple terms, treason is action. Sedition is provocation. You don't have to pick up a weapon to be guilty of sedition, but if you encourage others to resist, disrupt, or overthrow the government through force, you're in seditious territory. How U.S. law defines it. Under federal law, 18 U.S. Code, Section 2384, seditious conspiracy is when two or more people agree to overthrow the government, use force to oppose the authority of the U.S., interfere with federal laws through violence, seize government property by force, the punishment, up to 20 years in federal prison. This isn't a minor charge. This is the government saying you didn't just talk big, you encouraged or planned an attack on the system itself, what sedition is not. And here's where people get confused, sometimes intentionally. Sedition is not criticizing elected officials, calling the government corrupt, questioning election results, saying policies are stupid, protesting peacefully, posting political opinions online. All of that is protected speech under the First Amendment. If we couldn't criticize the government, we wouldn't be America. But the moment someone crosses the line into encouraging violence or organizing force against the government, that's when the seditious alarm bells start ringing. Historical reality check. In American history, sedition charges have been rare but impactful. From Civil War agitators to extremist groups to individuals plotting violent attacks on federal institutions, the charge is usually applied when speech turns into coordination, planning, or mobilizing force. You're not punished for the opinion, you're punished for the call to violent action. Why this matters today. We live in a time when political rhetoric is hotter than ever. Everyone's angry, everyone's pointing fingers, and the word sedition gets tossed around like confetti at a parade. But if everything is sedition, then nothing is. Understanding the actual definition matters, not only legally, but for the survival of free speech in America. If we start calling every disagreement sedition, then we've crossed into dangerous territory where the government or political parties can silence people by redefining dissent as rebellion. That's not freedom, that's authoritarianism. Sedition is a serious charge rooted in the idea of inciting violent rebellion against the United States. It isn't about opinions, it isn't about protests. It isn't about voting for the wrong candidate. It's about encouraging force to undermine the government itself. And when you understand that difference, you can spot the real threats and ignore the political theatrics. Treason, what treason really is. Treason is not, I don't like your politics. It's not, you tweeted something stupid. It's not even, you criticized the government. Treason is the single most serious crime a citizen can commit against the United States. It is defined directly in the Constitution, and for good reason. Why? Because the founders didn't want politicians weaponizing the word to silence their enemies. The constitutional definition, Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, spells it out in just one sentence. Treason consists only in levying war against the United States or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. That's it. Two categories. 1, levying war against the U.S. 2, giving aid and comfort to America's enemies. Let's unpack that. First, levying war against the United States. This means taking up arms against your own country. Joining an organized, violent attempt to overthrow the government, not protesting, not complaining, not posting angry memes, actual armed insurrection. Examples historically include taking part in an active rebellion, participating in an armed attempt to overthrow federal authority, fighting alongside forces trying to destroy the United States. This must be organized, intentional, and violent. A lone person with a sign does not qualify. A coordinated armed attack does. 2, giving aid and comfort to America's enemies. This means providing material help, support, intelligence, weapons, resources, or strategic assistance to a country or group engaged in war against the United States, not political opponents, not people you disagree with, actual enemies at war with the U.S. This could be giving classified information to an enemy nation, providing weapons or funding to groups attacking American soldiers, assisting a foreign power fighting the US. This isn't about liking or disliking someone. It's about helping an active enemy during wartime. What treason is not. Let's list what most people get wrong. Treason is not criticizing the president, opposing a political party, demonstrating or protesting, calling the government corrupt, voting the wrong way, being rude on social media. All of that is protected speech, even if it's dumb, disrespectful, or loud. Treason requires action, not opinion. The high standard for proof. The founders knew how dangerous false accusations could be, so they built strict protections. To convict someone of treason, there must be either a confession or two witnesses to the same overt act, not rumors. Not, I feel like it's treason. Not, my party said so. Direct evidence of an overt act. The penalty. Historically, treason was punishable by death. Today, it can still carry life imprisonment or death in extreme cases, and complete forfeiture of property. It is the most severe criminal label the government can attach to an American. Why understanding treason matters. Today, the word gets thrown around like a political football. Both sides accuse each other of treason simply for disagreeing, but if everything becomes treason, then the word means nothing. And worse, it becomes a weapon for silencing dissent. The founders feared that exact scenario. That's why they defined treason so narrowly. Treason protects the government from true betrayal, but it also protects the people from a government that might try to abuse the accusation. Treason is not about hurt feelings, political rivalry, or online drama. It is about taking up arms against your country or helping its enemies wage war. Simple, clear, constitutional. Understanding the real definition helps us cut through the noise, spot the real threats, and stop politicians from hijacking the word to score cheap points. On to today's show. Buckle up. Welcome back to Two Sense Unfiltered, where we call out the lies, expose the political games, and tell the truth the mainstream refuses to touch. I'm your host, Carrie. Today's topic is nothing short of explosive, and frankly, dangerous. We're talking about members of Congress openly encouraging the US military and intelligence community to sabotage a sitting president from within. Not in secret, not whispered behind closed doors. They posted a video telling them to do it. Let's get into it. The 6 elected US officials go public. A group of Democrat lawmakers, Senators Alyssa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, along with Representatives Chris DeLuzio, Chrissy Houlihan, Maggie Goodlander, and Jason Crow, released a video urging military and intelligence professionals to refuse orders from President Donald Trump. Think about that. Elected officials telling active duty military to ignore the chain of command and undermine the commander-in-chief. Their justification, they claim Trump is pitting the military and intelligence community against American citizens and insisted that service members' oath to the Constitution somehow requires them to disobey the president. No nuance, no legal reasoning, just a thinly veiled call for a soft coup. They framed it as refusing illegal orders, but the message was unmistakable. Defy Trump. Stop him. Block his authority. That is not oversight. That's not policy disagreement. That is insurrection dressed up as patriotism. Veterans are speaking out. And veterans, including those who served under Democrat administrations, are furious. One voice rising above the noise is Buzz Patterson, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, combat pilot, 20-year veteran, and former military aide who literally carried the nuclear football for President Bill Clinton. This is a man who served in 3 wars, deployed to 70 countries, and knows exactly what it means to follow lawful orders. He knows exactly what the chain of command is, and he didn't mince words. Patterson said he is appalled by what these lawmakers did, calling their actions a clear violation of their oath of office, especially Senator Mark Kelly, himself a former Navy captain. Patterson went further. He warned that their call to defy the commander-in-chief puts American service members in direct danger, both physically and legally. Why? Because when the chain of command breaks, people die. Not theoretically, literally. Soldiers confused about their orders can get themselves or others killed, and any young troop who follows the advice of these politicians would destroy their career, face court-martial, and possibly prison. Patterson called the actions of these members treasonous, and he supports them being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Possible consequences? And he's not alone. The Department of War announced it is considering recalling Senator Mark Kelly to active duty for the purpose of court-martial proceedings. Think about the gravity of that. A sitting U.S. senator, a veteran, potentially facing a military trial for encouraging defiance of lawful authority. And honestly, that shouldn't be where accountability stops. Every one of the lawmakers involved participated in a coordinated effort to undermine the chain of command and encourage insubordination at the highest levels of national security. There has to be consequences, or the entire military structure collapses. Closing thoughts. What these six lawmakers did was reckless, irresponsible, and dangerous. They weren't defending democracy, they were undermining it. They weren't protecting the Constitution, they were weaponizing it. And every veteran who ever wore the uniform knows this truth. You cannot maintain a free and stable nation if politicians are encouraging soldiers to ignore their commander in chief. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a slip. This was a coordinated political attack aimed directly at the heart of military discipline. And if we don't call it out, it will happen again. This has been Two Sense Unfiltered. I'm Carrie. Share this episode, follow the show, and stay tuned because the truth needs a voice, and we're just getting started.